So before getting to the slides, I'll start with a story. So I joined Thoughtworks like 3 years back. And then in the first project, I got the chance to play the security champion role in that project. So I liked the responsibility, but then I had this like feeling, where do I start? So luckily at that time, we had access to a security SME. So we had like weekly catch-ups, then bi-weekly catch-ups, and then on-demand catch-ups. So little by little, I gained that confidence. I gained that context, how to address the security concerns in the project. So I have been playing this role for like long, and then I wanted to give this opportunity to another developer and see how others can play this role. So while I was talking to the developers, like who's willing to play this role, everyone has the aspiration to play the role, but right after that aspiration, everyone has the like this unknown concern, like how do I do this? Where do I start? Like almost like there's something missing, uh, like probably in the confidence whether they can play the role or not. So the talk is around a thought experiment that I did for the last few weeks on like how GenAI can help developers to gain this confidence by reasoning with the GenAI models. So hence the topic, summoning the security champion within like all the developers. So how we can empower the developers to defend what they build using AI as their sidekicks. So going into this talk, we will be covering what are like the challenges that security poses to developers, and then how GenAI can amplify the shift left practices. How can we better understand some of the practices, and then how can we use GenAI to do like threat modeling? And then we get into like more practical areas where we get into how to talk to a GenAI. How do we like prompt it? Then we get into how we can make better use of these prompts, so we can enable all the developers to come in and take a have at the security concerns of the project. And then finally, important area is how we provide the right context to the GenAI. So we will be talking around that for a bit. And then I'll go for a quick demo where I'll show how the context of the prompts can improve the results or the responses. And then finally, as Lee and Ryan went through, how should we be careful when we are working with GenAI? So the challenge of security for developers. So everyone know that security matters, and in this context, everyone has the intent to play the role of security champion. But everyone has this concern where they don't know where to start. For them, security feels like a black box. It can be like a wall that they don't know what's beneath there. So that's the main concern or like the fear they have. And then not all the projects will have access to security SMEs. So with the access they have, they need to make the most of it. So they need to be prepared with the context and the reasoning behind certain security practices, security findings. And then depending on like what you have done already, the feedbacks for the security can be like very late, maybe as late as VAPT reports. So someone coming in new to take over these like security practices might be overwhelmed by that VAPT responses. And then when it comes to security, there are like a lot of things that we can do, but maybe we don't have the time. So we always have this fear of like doing too much things and then slowing down the delivery, reducing the outcome to the client. So it's good to understand what's what and then compare and see what's really required for what we are building. So with that in mind, let's see how we can build up on top of shift left practices and amplify them with GenAI. So in Thoughtworks, we have like a very strong practices for shifting left the security. So we have secure delivery checklists, and then we have sensible default practices where we implement security early in the projects. We have scans to make sure that we do the necessary steps, necessary hardening, and it provides a great foundation. Even though we do these scans, sometimes it can be like a bit obscure, where we don't really understand what we are doing, and we don't really play the role of an attacker. So we might have done a lot of things, but there might be still vulnerabilities that attackers can use. So it's good to have that attacker mindset and think about the system from an attacker's point of view. So we get that confidence, okay, these areas are covered. So going into how GenAI can help. So secure software cannot wait till the late stage reviews. But the developers are best placed to catch these issues early, because developers are engaged in the project from very early, from the analysis phase up until the production releases. But the problem we have is developers may not have the full context, full understanding of what are these security practices do, or how to do like a threat modeling. So that's where GenAI can come in and close the gap by supporting developers to learn and then reason with GenAI models to understand and see what are applicable in what areas, and assume that role of an attacker. So how do we talk with GenAI? It's very well known. We have a lot of training in campus as well. So it's through prompting. So prompting has like few frameworks. What I will focus on here is like these 4 areas where we set instructions, we give context, and then we give a sense of like what sort of like output we are looking for. Format like this, or like only 3 of each category, and what are like the categories we are looking for. And also we can say with a negative prompt, don't include like this area in our response. So this is like a example where we are trying to threat model a very simple system where we are allowing the users to use our API and upload a file. So we can store that in S3 and then record the upload for audit purpose for later on. So here in the green colored area, we are saying like what we are going to do. We are giving the instructions, and then we are giving the context of how the system works, what are the technologies used inside, and then some additional details about where do we store the details, how do we store the logs likewise. And finally, we are saying we want to see 3 threats for each of the stride categories. So we can do a first stab at the threat model, and then we can build upon and go into more in each category. And for this example and sake of this idea, let's say like we are using AWS API gateway, and we are not too worried about the threats of availability. So we are explicitly saying do not include any threats to availability in this prompt response. So how can this prompting help us when we are talking to GenAI, and in general, how can GenAI help us? So this helps us reason with the AI, so we can get a better understanding of what we are trying to do and assume that role of attacker. And then GenAI can explain the security concepts, evaluate designs similar to this case, and then also review code using some like coding assistants like GitHub Copilot. And this mechanism works even when we don't have a security SME around. So we can do this offline and then have a catch up with the security SMEs when they're available. And this can be useful across the entire development, because developers can engage with GenAI throughout. And then this is good for learning by doing, because prompting GenAI is not very expensive. So we can just prompt and then learn how each prompt gives us the responses, and like we can adjust our prompt so we can guide the GenAI to the expected outcome. And then once you get a feel for this, the effort will decrease over the time. Okay, so prompt templates. Why should we consider prompt templates, and like what does it mean to say like a prompt template? So prompt template is where we need to play around with the prompt so we can get to a point where it gives us dependable responses. So once we get to that point, then we can extract out the like the instructions or the context, and then we can leave out the questions for later. So we have like a well-tested context in the prompt template, and based on that, we can ask different questions. So why should we do this? Because this makes this security aspect of GenAI accessible for all the developers in the team. And then it's easier to get started because of the less cognitive load at the starting point. And then this encourages consistency, and we can scale the knowledge throughout the team. And again, the barrier to entry is less for the new developers or less experienced developers. So given that those advantages are there, one thing we should keep in mind is we shouldn't overdo with these prompt templates, because the system changes and the prompts should adapt as well. So that's something to keep in mind when we are working with prompt templates. We should always keep them updated to give us the expected outcomes. So a bit on the providing the right context, because we are specifically talking about like a very specialized area with GenAI. So there's this saying, if you put garbage in GenAI, we will get garbage out from GenAI. So it's very important to give the right context. So GenAI can lean on to that specialized area and give us the expected outcomes. So just going through like why is it important. So AI is smart. It can help us a lot, but we need to provide the context. We need to explain our situation and ask the right questions. And especially when it comes to like a specialized area like this, we need to provide like structured input to get the required insights. And then when it comes to like threat modeling, the system's architecture will help the GenAI a lot. And then when developers provide the system view to the AI, then AI can help us spot the risks and also suggest mitigations. So any questions so far before we go into the demo? I guess not. Okay, I'll go into the demo. So for the demo, I will be using GitHub Copilot chat to do test out few prompts. So we can get an understanding like how providing better context matters. And then we can see how we can use GitHub Copilot to do prompt templates. So I have a few pre-prepared prompts. So I'll go one by one and explain like why I choose like those prompts. So the first prompt is we are just saying, okay, I'm a software engineer performing threat modeling, note down all threats in the system. So here I'm not giving any context about what we are going to threat model, and let's see like how the response looks like. Yeah, so if you see the responses, it's assuming that we are going to use stride because we are saying threat modeling, but it doesn't say anything very specific to our scenario where we are trying to develop an API to upload a file, and the file will be stored in S3, and then the logs will be stored in AWS CloudWatch, so forth. So let's go a bit further and let's give a bit more context and see how it can give us better output. So here we are saying we are threat modeling an API endpoint which allows users to upload a file. That's all we are saying. We are not going into the implementation details. Yeah, so if you see now, especially in this tampering area, we can see it's talking about uploading files with like malicious payloads. And then saying about exposure of uploaded file to unauthorized users due to improper access control. So now it's talking about our context, but still, since we didn't give good enough context, it's not giving us close enough threats to start looking into. So we will go another step into it. So now we are going to give some implementation level details. Yeah, now it's giving us like some specific issues that we could have in our system, since we have given that context of the implementation or the system architecture. So now it's talking about API gateway, Lambda functions, what could go wrong with them, S3 buckets, DynamoDB. So now the responses are getting a bit closer to where we want because we have given the context. So similarly, we can improve the context and then we can get more output which aligns with our requirement. And then just to highlight how we can give output formats. Here, if you see like each category will have different number of risks that the AI model sees. So if we want to like first get a stab at like few, like 3 for each category, we can just say that in the prompt itself. So here we are saying note down 3 threads for each stride category in the system. Yeah, so now it's giving 3 for each. I mean, this is not a very like practical formatting request for if we are like doing actual threat modeling, but just to give an idea like how we can change the prompt so we can like control the output format, if I say. And then similarly, we can ask the AI model to exclude certain type of findings in the response. So here I'm saying do not include any threats that can affect availability. So this is important when you like want to focus on a certain area and zoom out everything else, so you can focus on what you want to focus at that point. So if you see, we don't have the DDoS category, any findings for the DDoS category here. Yeah, denial of service category is not there anymore. So now we get to a point where we are getting GenAI to provide us answers that that make sense to us. But then again, we are copying the context, like the system diagram or the description of the system in each prompt. So this is where prompt templating comes up. We can extract that context into like a common place or like a common template, and then we can reuse this. So since I'm using GitHub Copilot here, GitHub Copilot has this repository level instruction mechanism. where we just have this file in this predefined path, which is like .github. So I'll quickly rename it back to the correct path name. And then if we go into this this gives the project overview. So this is basically the same description I had in the all the other prompts, where I'm giving the implementation level details in the project overview. So let's see if GitHub Copilot can consider this as a template and then get the answers that we are looking for. To make sure that Copilot is not keeping anything in the context, I'll just delete this chat and start with the simplest prompt. Yeah, so if you see in the prompt, we don't give any context regarding what we are trying to do, but it can get the details from that repository level instructions where we provide the project overview with this predefined markdown file. So far what we have done is like using text descriptions. So it's there's a tool that we use in threat modeling called the Threat Dragon. Let me see if I can show you. So can everyone see the Threat Dragon window? Okay. So this is like a tool that we use to diagram and then do threat modeling and record the risks that we see in the system. So basically this diagram is saved as a JSON. So we can even come up with a tool to take this diagram as a context. So this is a repository that I found. So I just reuse the same, and this is using OpenAPI as its GenAI model instead of GitHub Copilot. So I'll show you how this works. So how this works is it takes the JSON file, and from the JSON file, it will create the context. So it can act as a template for any questions that we ask. In this case, the question itself is like very simple. We just say, we need to do a threat modeling for this particular scenario. So we see how it goes. So basically this part, it's generating from the diagram file itself, this part, and then it can talk to the OpenAPI and then get the output, which includes the site category findings. Okay. Any questions from the demo? If not, I'll go back to the slides. So yeah, so we went through the demo. So we saw how we can change our prompt so we can better provide the context to the GenAI tools, and then get better answers and like reason with the model. And then we see like we saw two mechanisms that we can use for prompt templating. One was using the GitHub Copilot built-in features, and one was like a custom script where we read from a Threat Dragon diagram itself and then create the context. So as you can see, GenAI tools can help us like generate the risks that it see and help us reason with the model. But it shouldn't be the ultimate answer, or it shouldn't be like a hero or a guru. So we should always consider GenAI as a sidekick, but we should always verify what comes out of the GenAI tools. So that's where SMEs come into the picture. But since we have these tools, we can always try to reason and come up with our own risks that we see, and always verify with a security SME whenever they are available. So why we should trust but verify is, as Lily and Ray mentioned in their sessions earlier, GenAI tends to hallucinate, and then always there's a cutoff date for the training data for these foundation models. And as you see, the responses depends on the context that we give. So missing context means not so good responses. And then biases. So usually like the most common biases are already controlled, or there are guardrails to control them, for like gender, demographies. Those biases are already covered. But in this case, we are considering security. So those sort of like technical biases may not be already in those guardrails for these foundation models. So that's something we should consider as well. So with that, my talk concludes. Does anyone has any questions? Okay. Then thank you, everyone. So please take some time to give your feedback. And then we look forward to hear about your story with like your security sidekicks. Thank you.